Thank you so much, Sabrina, for coming on to our new podcast, Educators of Today. Super excited to be having this chat with you. As I mentioned earlier, you're actually our very first guest, so I'm excited to be having this very first conversation with you. I guess to start us off, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your role, your school, and then we can go from there.
Okay, my name is Sabrina, and I'm a principal at Sacré-Coeur School in Sudbury. And I've actually been principal here for since January, and I was vice principal at another school in this school board last year. So yeah, I grew up in Sudbury, been here my whole life. My dad immigrated from Italy about 50 some years ago. So, I know, my upbringing was a little bit different than some people here. But basically, I decided to just go into teaching as a second career. I started my career out in marketing and then decided to go into teaching. And here I am today. I have a husband of 20, almost 25 years,
Nice.
and I have two kids.
I love that. And I know you mentioned obviously you're Italian, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
And so I know you speak three languages, which I thought was really cool. Do you speak any other languages apart from Italian, English, and French?
No, but I have been trying so hard to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
And I guess because the languages are so similar, it's just not sticking to my ear. And I have some Hispanic students here, so we laugh because they'll speak to me in Spanish and I'll just respond in Italian because I'm trying, like I understand it so fluently, but I just can't, the words don't come to me. So, creates a lot of empathy for me for students learning a second language.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you tried Duolingo?
I have, and you know what? I did so well on Duolingo, but then I think what happens is that there's this linguistic insecurity that we have just in general. So even though I know it, I know, but when I'm speaking, it's like all of a sudden, the word's not coming out. What's that word, right? So I think that's what it is, and just to my ear, it's just not sounding right.
No, I get that. I feel like it's like that. Yeah, whenever it's different. Like what I speak Swahili. I'm from East Africa, and Hindi as well. Like my parents are Indian. But every time I go back home or I speak to like my grandparents, I definitely do not feel as confident as I am in like English, which is my primary language. So I get that. But I'm curious to learn. You mentioned you obviously grew up a little differently, being Italian and having parents that are immigrants, right? How would you say that shaped your journey as an educator? What would you say was unique about your experience growing up?
Well, I think just being multilingual in general, and yeah, obviously being raised by a father who immigrated here, it shapes how I see the world and how I connect to others. I think it's given me a deep appreciation for how languages influence our identity, how it brings people together. Like our culture, our traditions are so rich, and the language is everything. And I mean, like you said, you're in your culture. I mean, there's so many just rich. It's the food, it's the get-togethers, it's the clothing, it's the energy. So all of that, kind of shaped who I am. So, and then my parents decided to send me to a French Catholic school. So again, French Catholics, right? Deep values,
Yeah.
lots of strong roots. So I think it's taught me to the importance of inclusivity, building connections, you know, and being a principal, it helps me create this welcoming environment where everybody feels, welcome, just
Yeah.
supported.
Yeah, no, I get that. I also had, I guess, like a little bit of a mixed background. So for me, I was born in Tanzania, and then I went to boarding school in Kenya. And obviously, my parents are Indian, and I moved to Canada, and so having all those different perspectives, definitely, like I feel like I can relate to people in a different way, right? And you understand
Awesome.
the different kind of values. So I completely understand that. Obviously, as part of my research, I noticed you mentioned as well that you started work in marketing, right? Um, I guess one, I'm curious to learn how you transition from marketing to the education space, but also, yeah, why marketing and what did that teach you in terms of, your work as an educator?
Well, it's funny because I never, growing up, teaching wasn't something, that you ask, what do you want to be? And kids like, oh, I want to be a teacher. That wasn't what I wanted to change the world.
Yeah.
So I've always
Which
loved.
you are right now.
Well, I mean, I hope so. Like I've always loved working with people. And, at a certain point, like I graduated from high school. I went to college and I studied marketing. And then I worked in the field for a little bit. And at some point, I said, like I just really wanted to go back to my French roots.
Mm,
And so I applied to French Teachers College. I got in. Sometimes, your journey, your path, you just have to go with it.
yeah.
So, as a student, I was really involved, organized events, planned activities, joined committees, but I was not the typical student that liked sitting in a desk.
Mm.
So I did spend a lot of time at the principal's office. So it's kind of funny that, here I am in the principal's office. Okay, no, I was just saying, like I needed to be moving and planning and building connections. And literally the day I stepped foot in a school as a teacher, it was just like, wow, this is not a job. This is not another career. This is a vocation. This is like you are it. You're on. Like you're molding people's lives.
Yeah.
And I just, from then, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a principal one day. I just need to continue this impact and just make a difference?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I want you talked a lot about like how as an educator you're molding people's lives, right? And I feel like that's a responsibility that sometimes go doesn't get enough credit. um but it's huge, right? Like for me, even growing up, like I have a lot of moments that just like one thing that a teacher said has stuck with me so much. Yeah, I'm curious to learn like what does it mean to you to for you to have that responsibility, and how does that change how you show up every day at work?
Well, I think, it's just it's appreciating, it's empathizing, it's knowing where people come from. It's easy in a world, in the world we live in, it's easy to judge, it's easy to criticize, it's just easy to do that. But we have to live in the now and we have to be positive. And we always have to look at these children and think, sometimes school is the only place they're going to get that smile and that lunch, together in community, right? Like we come, when you come from a cultural background and a big family and you eat together and you're together, but for some kids they don't get that. So coming into a school, into a building, it's so important. Like I get goosebumps just thinking about it because you this is their place, this is their happy place, and that's what we have to do. We have to try everything we can to make it a happy place for everybody. I mean, not just kids, but teachers. You spend your day here.
Yeah, no, I get
Mhm.
that. I spent a lot of time. I was having a conversation earlier today, and we were talking a lot about what it means to have a physical space, right? And how, especially now more than ever, in a world where we have social media and technology, and although it feels like we're more connected, young people feel very, feel very lonely, feel very disconnected, and so the fact that they come to school every day is a physical space where they can build connection, they can build community, as you mentioned. So it's interesting that you bring that up and you talk about how do you create that happy space for them, happy place for them where they can
Mhm.
build community. You've obviously been an educator, a teacher for like 20 years now, right?
Yeah.
What would you say has in your experience has changed over the years? What would you say? How has your experience, yeah, changed over the years in terms of school, in terms of the education space as a whole, in terms of what you see with young people and students on a day to day?
Well, actually, when the pandemic hit, I had just switched school boards, and I came into the French Catholic school board. I taught in an English Catholic school board for basically my entire career. So I came over and as a vice principal, and then the pandemic hit, and they asked me to be the principal of a virtual school.
Mm.
And of course, no one really knew what that meant at the time. I just knew that, I had over 500 kids, I had all this staff, um, and I had to make my priority was for everybody to again feel included.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you do that in a box? And you know what? We manage. It's amazing how when you empower people and you go through that together, right? We were all in this together, and these kids, they were learning, and we had religious celebrations online. We did dances online. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the kids, like we named the school, we created a mascot. You can't do that alone. You can't do that. So that's right there. That's impact of a family coming together. The kids, their parents, their grandparents, the teachers. It was like amazing. That for me, that pandemic really it impacted people's lives. Yes, negatively in some ways, but there was so much positive that came out of it. We came through it. I think we're more resilient. We're
Yeah.
more accepting, maybe because of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable
No,
what we
I
can do.
I agree. Yeah, I remember during the pandemic, I felt the same way. It was so nice to see how people really came together. And no matter your race, your background, your religion, like it was a time where we put all the different society and came together. And I'm sure it sounds like in the school setting, it was the same, right? I'm sure lots of collaboration with the other teachers at your school, with the students, their parents, and,
Hmm.
and and it's incredible um, to see that. Would you say that was like a big, like one of the, I guess, bigger challenge in your last 20 years? Have there been moments where you've really had to like be out of your comfort zone or be very, can you recall any moments where you'd say, or I guess challenges in your path? And I'm sure you face a bunch every day.
Well, I think when you're the type of person, as you know, who, steps out of a box and wants to make a difference in the world, you're going to face adversity. You're going to face it regardless. You're going to have many, many doors slam in your face. You're gonna be said no to.
Yeah.
So it's to come out of that, seek out mentors, research, and just really think, how can I, it was never like, how can I be better? It's like, how can I make a better experience for people? Because,
Mm,
you always hear that, when wherever you go, you'll remember how someone made you feel, not necessarily what you saw or what you witnessed. And that, for me, is really what it's all about. So I had to face adversity and move forward knowing that this was my goal, right?
yeah.
So that was one thing, switching school boards, that was huge. I left everything I knew to take a chance.
Yeah.
And it's been the most amazing experience of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gifted with so many relationships and just amazing experiences in my other school board. And now, I get to do it again. And then in the pandemic, I mean, I learned so much in that experience as a principal of a virtual school. It was just unbelievable. It was probably the most difficult and most challenging experience of my entire life,
Yeah.
but I would literally do it again. I would literally
Wow.
do those 15 hours a day again because it was humbling and unbelievable.
No, I love that. And I guess going through that experience, and even you mentioning like I can tell from how you speak, you really care about like other people and how they, as you mentioned, how they feel, right? What are, as someone that's listening to this, an educator that is facing a challenge right now and that's listening to this, what are like, do you have any tips or advice or things in terms of how to approach adversities or challenges? Like, because I'm sure as an educator, you face so many different things every single day, right? When working with all these different kids.
Yeah, I think my advice to anyone, okay, like whether you're going into leadership or not, is to focus on building really strong and authentic relationships with
Mm,
those around you. Because leadership, it's not about making decisions. It's not about, your title. It's about supporting. It's about empowering. It's about listening, adapting, you know, and willing to learn from your successes and your setbacks. So especially when you want to go into education of any type. I mean, you're in education too because you're educating people. We all are
yeah,
in some way. And I think we just have to understand that it's a journey. And we can all be leaders. We all have that in us. It's just that it's a journey, and it's going to take. It takes time. It takes effort. You have to build trust in people, and
Yeah.
the only way to build trust is to show vulnerability, to apologize when you're wrong, to say I don't know the answer, but like let's find it together.
Yeah.
To accept criticism, which is like probably one of the hardest things as human beings we face,
Yeah.
but you have to let people tell you that you did something that offended them, or you said something, you know, that maybe wasn't the right thing to say. Because once you do that, they tell you, you might not like it, but you grow from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people don't tell you the truth and don't have courageous conversations, how will we grow? How
Yeah.
will we grow?
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the point you made around, leading with vulnerability and being open to criticism and accepting that. I think, and then also the power of like building trust and very strong relationships with the people around you, because there's only so much you can do alone. So, no, I appreciate those insights. Earlier, you mentioned something about how when you were a student, you were not the type of student that would just sit on your desk, right? And obviously going through like your school's website and stuff, I noticed that there's so many different opportunities that you folks provide in terms of different extracurriculars. I'm curious to learn, why is it important to provide those holistic experiences to your students? I'm very privileged. Like, I grew up in a school that gave me all those chances to develop my character and leadership outside of class. So curious to learn, why is that important, and what's your approach been with that?
Well, I think that the most important thing really is to give students a voice, and to give them opportunities. Like you can learn in a classroom setting, and you have to, that's important too. But you have to have meaningful experiences, life experiences. You have to let kids say what they like and what they want, and let them experience these different experiences. Like we have two high skills majors here, one in health, one in justice, and those give students hands-on learning experiences in their fields. We have a lot of other opportunities here where students can go to a college and they can get credits for high school but also for college.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, giving them all of these different experiences, then kids can be empowered to decide where they want to go and what they want to do. Like when I was a kid, it was always like, oh, okay, university, everybody has to go to university. So when I went to college, people were just, oh, she's going to college. But it's 2024. Like you, it doesn't matter what education you have. Even if you're like doing an apprenticeship, going to college, like it's not a piece of paper that's going to dictate what, what you can learn. So they have to be able to learn that at school. Not everybody plays sports, but if they do, hey, let's have sports for them. They want to play chess. Hey, let's let them play chess, right? So this is, we have a leadership class, which is new this year, because the kids said, why don't we have something where the kids can organize and have intramural activities at lunch? Sure. So we were able to provide them with that. All of these opportunities, help them build their self-confidence, and then help them find, who they are and where they want to go.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I know you talked a lot about how it's 2024, and it's important that we provide these opportunities for them to build leadership, prepare for university. The fact that you have two high school majors where they can get credits for things like university and stuff, I feel like that is so important. And I feel like we also live in a time where there's like, are the current students of today will eventually go into a workforce where there are jobs that are not even gonna be invented, right? Um, and so
Yep.
how do you prepare young people to live in that sort of world, right? And it's interesting that you do provide all those different opportunities. I know one thing that you folks also emphasize on is how students have all these different opportunities to uh, collaborate or get involved in the broader community outside of the school setting. Are there any examples of
Mm-hmm.
stories you'd like to share related to that, in terms of what kind of opportunities your school offers for that?
We've developed a lot of really good partnerships in the community. We have a really great co-op teacher. He's been here for many years, and he has, a lot of partners where they'll take students in, like banks or hospitals or private clinics or, like construction companies, and they'll take students in to do a co-op. So they'll spend, a semester, half a day in the semester working to get credit, but they're basically they're on the job, and a lot of those students have actually been hired after co-ops, after school, on apprenticeships. So that's huge. And at this particular school, every Christmas they have a Christmas dinner, and it's called Le Réveillon. It's a French traditional turkey dinner. So this year we've decided to partner with the Knights of Columbus, which it's the French, so it's the Chevalier de Colomb, and our students who are taking our cooking class, they're going to actually be helping these people cook the lunch for the entire
Wow.
school community. So, right, again, hands-on experience. Look at the impact they're feeding, the school community. So it's just those small little partnerships, the things that kids see, that's who they'll become,
Yeah, yeah, and the fact that they get to apply that hands-on experience is stuff that goes such a long way. Like I have so many memories of those few opportunities that you get to actually apply what you're learning in class, and those are the things that shape me and I hold on to until today. So I completely
Mhm.
get that. I guess second last question I had is, what advice would you have for someone that is exploring to a career in leadership in the education space? Um, how obviously you've been in the space for a while. Any advice for someone that's considering this as an option for their pathway?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think that, it's about building strong relationships. It's about being vulnerable, but it's also about staying true to who you are and your values and never losing sight of that. Like you don't let anybody dull your sparkle, right? That's important. I know who I am. I'm very flamboyant. I am very, out there. And it took me a long time to know who I am and to say it's okay. This is awesome. Let's all be different and let's all come together. So as a leader, that's your job to stay true to that, to be who you are, don't be fake, and just let other people see you, especially in as a teacher or as a principal. I mean, I'll come in at Christmas with like dressed up with bells on and lights on, and I walk into high school and they're like, "What? Who is this?" But it's fun and it brings a little bit of like, hey,
Yeah,
it's a school. Let's have fun. They have their whole lives to be a grown up, and what does that even
yeah,
mean? I think that we just need to have fun. So as a leader, you just need to remember that, and you're gonna face adversity. It's hard. It's really, really hard when people say no to you and tell you that you can't be, a motivational speaker or a principal or the prime minister but people don't get to tell
yeah,
you who you're going
yeah,
to be. They don't get that right. So you know what? If a door closes, go find another one that's going to
yeah,
open. Go find people that appreciate you and go make a difference. Because when we leave this earth, this planet, it's the impact that we made that is going to be left, and that's the difference. It's going to be those kids that said, because he or she did this or said this, I became who I am
yeah,
today.
yeah.
And that's what it is. That's the bottom
No, I
line.
love that, and I can tell from even just the energy in this conversation, how you speak, how you embody that on a day to day basis, and yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, but also living that in the school and in your own leadership position. I guess one last question I have for you is, you mentioned you have two kids, and you get to work with amazing young people every single day. What would, if you had a magic wand and you could decide to change one thing in this world, and that could be anything. What would that be? Obviously, keeping in mind everything our world is experiencing and all the changes that we're experiencing today.
I just, I wish we could have more acceptance and more respect. I think that it's 2024 and we should be past discrimination and racism and all of that, that really affects me to my core, because I just think that if we would listen to people and appreciate where everyone comes from, like, we'd have such a better world. I understand. I mean, I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, hey, like, let's live in a fairy tale land." That's not it, okay? But all I'm saying is we should be more accepting of who people
Yeah.
are. Is all.
Yeah.
And you know what? The other thing too, going back to the leadership and this question, we always have to remember where we came from,
Mhm.
because at some point people forget. Like, I tell people, I'm a
Yeah.
teacher. Yeah, I know I'm a principal, but I'm a teacher. And who did I come from? I came from a family who immigrated
Yeah.
here. So I have to, like, you have to go back and remember that sacrifices were made for us to be where we are. Like, you know,
Yeah. No, you couldn't have said it.
that's my magical
Yeah,
second.
you could have said it better, and yeah, that just leaves me with a lot of hope. Also knowing that you being in your position, that we have people like you that are leading and shaping the lives of young people with that in mind, right? And despite everything that's going on in the world, it's nice and hopeful to know that we have people like you that are doing amazing work. So I appreciate you taking the time. I feel so energized after this conversation.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm super excited to share it with the world and hear the feedback. So thank you so much, Sabrina. I appreciate you taking out the time.
Thank you. And likewise to you, because what you're doing is also making a huge impact. A lot of young people are going to look at you and see that, it's possible. Because I'm sure a lot of people, probably your parents said, "Oh my goodness, what is that career? What kind of job is this?" What I'm saying, but they don't, because they don't
Yeah,
know. Look at it's the
yeah.
impact. Look at the difference you're making, right? So there you
No, I
go.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.